Led Zeppelin, the biggest, baddest, most beloved rock band in America in the 1970s. Parents hated them.
Disturbing and alluring, yeah, absolutely.
Critics hated them. Record producers were awestruck.
It was the best band, rock and roll band of its type that I'd ever heard.
Fans worshiped them, and still do.
They were defying gravity.
Led Zeppelin guarded the secrets to their success, but their legend had a life of its own. Since their debut on October 17, 1968 in Surrey, England, the name of the British band Led Zeppelin has been synonymous with excess.
Those guys were golden gods, and they knew it. They took advantage of it, obviously.
By the time they were big, they certainly had got it down to a fine art.
Nobody pushed the music as far or pulled audiences in as close.
When they really got moving in some of those grooves that they would lay down, they could just reach out and unify all those thousands of people and lift them up, just like a pagan dance.
No other band generated the heat.
Of course it's sex, it's what sells. It doesn't matter whether you're selling it to a man or a woman, it's rock and roll, it's sex.
Or the beat.
The whole building was rocking, and there was 4 of them. It was, for me, fantastic. I was so gobsmacked.
No other band had their chemistry.
They conjured up a whole world beyond reality.
On stage or in the imagination.
Is Jimmy Page into Satanism? Nobody knows. Who cares even, really?
No other band experienced the triumphs or the tragedies. And no other band except the Beatles ever sold more records.
They really made recordings which today are selling in huge quantities to young people all over the world.
In their 12 years together, Led Zeppelin created several of rock music's most celebrated anthems. Dazed and Confused, Whole Lotta Love, Kashmir, and Stairway to Heaven were a major part of the soundtrack of the 1970s.
Of all the rock and roll bands, including the early great ones, Rolling Stones, Beatles, I think that Led Zeppelin has the strongest influence on young bands today of any group in the history of rock and roll.
Powered by their musical talent, their passion, and the heavy-hitting business tactics of manager Peter Grant, Led Zeppelin turned the music business into the Led Zeppelin industry.
One of the brilliant strategies about the whole Led Zeppelin era was that they maintained the myth by not doing the ordinary, by not doing TV interviews and press, but leaving their fans wanting more, along with changing of the whole industry from it being the promoter making money and paying the band, saying, no, we're the band, we are the success, we'll take the money and pay you a percentage.
There are a lot of things they've never done. They never put out a single, ever.
Zeppelin's refusal to put out the usual 3-minute singles forced the audience to buy an entire album if they liked a song. And to pay a different kind of attention to the music Zeppelin was making.
It was like God was coming to visit your town tonight.
With Grant and Page at the helm, the band soared to stratospheric heights.
And that was all part of the strategy, you know, to create the buzz.
The occupants of these limousines don't rule countries, don't make oil deals. They don't even make million-dollar movies. They are the Led Zeppelin, a rock group on tour. And the Zeppelin is very big.
Led Zeppelin broke every existing record for attendance, record sales, hero worship, and rock and roll decadence.
Led Zeppelin left pop culture with a bunch of broken windows and kicked down doors and changed sexual mores. And they gave a lot of young bands a lot of big ideas.
Ironically, the name Led Zeppelin was a joke, made by Keith Moon or John Entwistle of the band The Who, at a time when they were considering forming a band with some of Zeppelin's members. It was a quip about the likelihood of such a band taking off. Led Zeppelin began as an offshoot of the Yardbirds, the famed British band that launched guitar legends Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck. In 1966, Jimmy Page had taken over as lead guitarist, but the Yardbirds were already falling apart. When the Yardbirds finally imploded, manager Peter Grant offered Jimmy an already booked Scandinavian tour and the name The New Yardbirds, if he wanted it. Page was only too keen. He set about rounding up a new band.
Jimmy Page we knew because he was the guitarist of choice for recording sessions as a studio musician, and John Paul Jones was the bass player of choice for recording sessions. So we thought, well, these are two great musicians, and the buzzword was out that there was going to be this great group.
Jimmy had invited singer Terry Reid to join, but Reid was unavailable. He suggested a young blues singer from the North Country named Robert Plant. Plant had been with a group called the Band of Joy and was now fronting an obscure band called Hobstweedle.
Robert Plant, he was a little bit more of an unknown quantity. He had a very unusual style, which was not so melodic at the time.
Plant nominated his friend and former bandmate John Bonham as drummer. Bonham was newly married and barely making ends meet. He hesitated to give up his first decently paying gig with another band.
John Bonham was a hit from the word go, Jesus, and he was stunning, you know, blimey.
From their first rehearsal, Page, Plant, Bonham, and Jones had a magical chemistry together. Page remembered the moment as scary. It was so powerful.
That band was an animal. It was like a wild animal live. It just didn't care about anything but just being up there and bringing it right then.
In October 1968, the new band recorded its first album under its own name. It took just 9 days and barely 30 hours of studio time.
The first time we heard them, I said, well, this band is going to be the band that will take over.
Within a month of their first live appearance, Led Zeppelin had signed with Atlantic Records.
Jerry Wester and we wanted them right away. It was the best band, rock and roll band of its type that I'd ever heard.
By December 1968, the band was on their way to America for a debut that would literally rock their audiences and land like a Led Zeppelin with critics.